This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
The Great American Bash Tour last week. 45 plus days of cage matches, war games, title defenses, and very little rest. And at the conclusion of last week's episode, you and Conrad teased the future opponents for the Horsemen in August of '88. Well, buddy, we are here, and yes, sir, it's time to talk about him, the Midnight Express. And I cannot wait to talk about you and Tully and Jim Cornette and the Midnights. And as an old school wrestling fan, this matchup had so many possibilities. You know it's going to be a good match with excellent psychology. The promos are going to sell the tickets. And as you've mentioned concerning Barry for the past couple of weeks, it's all brand new. Talk a little bit about your excitement going into this with the Midnight Express.
Up until that time in the business, you just didn't have those matchups. Two top heel teams, you would have never booked it. I never saw it previous to that point in time, and it just wasn't done. So that alone, in this business, you only get a few firsts, and that was going to be a first. And I knew that Cornette running his yap versus JJ running his yap, and the rest of us chiming in, and Bobby Eaton speaking for the first time, man, it just had unlimited possibilities.
And everything you said, Arn, we got for you today. We got the clips. We got even Bobby Eaton running his yap. So this is going to be some really good stuff. So buckle up. I'm ready for August 1988. And for sure, a wrestling program such as this, because that's what's on the marquee, wrestling. So Arn, as I said, this is a program that arguably pitted the two best tag teams in the entire industry against one another. And today, my friend, we're going to relive it. Along the way, we're going to wrap up the Great American Bash. Are you ready to dive into this?
Cannot wait to relive it. Some stuff I remember very clearly, and some is probably going to remind me here watching this. So let's do it.
All right, here we go. So we start in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's right, the city that's made famous by the Crusher. And we're at the Mecca here. It's August 1st. The Horsemen are going to begin the month with a War Games match. It's Dusty, Lex, Sting, and the Road Warriors, and they would defeat the NWA World Champion Ric Flair, Barry, and you and Tully and JJ in the War Games. Arn, you guys might have had all the gold. That there was no way the Horsemen left Milwaukee the winners, and this is undeniably your top 10 performers at this time. Think about it. I don't know if we've ever discussed this, but was there any concern from management or even the wrestlers about putting all the Crockett eggs, if you will, in one basket? I mean, think about it. Accidents, injuries could happen, and this is all the main event talent the company has at this time in this War Games match.
You can never in this business go to the ring worrying about getting hurt. If you do, you're going to get hurt. Everybody was in ring shape. Everybody was used to taking a beating by this point in time. All those guys were very, very physical. And so it was just one of those things that the real shocker of it was that you could have that many guys in one match and still have a full card of excellent talent. So you're talking about a super show, that would have been a super show.
Absolutely. What a card, if you can only imagine. But the headline really, I'm sure, brought all the fans out. And we'll move along because the next day, you're now down to Columbus, Georgia, second from the top. You have the Horsemen, and here we go, the Midnight Express, wrestling to a double DQ. And in the second half of the double shot from the Municipal Auditorium in Sioux City, you and Tully, alongside with an H, lose to Sting, Dr. Death, and Nikita. And oh, by the way, Arn, on the third, you're going to Seattle, Washington. All four of the Four Horsemen were in the main event, losing to Lex, Nikita, and the Road Warriors. And I got to pause right here. 3 days, 4 cities, 4 matches, and we're just getting warmed up, my friend. This is the grind that you've spoken about before on this show time and time again. And this just isn't going from the north to the south. Now you're flying over to Seattle, and Crockett's running towns that are not necessarily always filled with fans. What are your thoughts on all this as we catch a breath here for a minute?
Well, it's, we hadn't established Seattle as a Crockett town, that's for sure. But it was a great sports city. Now, I'm hoping you're going to tell me we had some success. Do we have any numbers?
We don't have numbers on the sellout of Seattle or what the numbers look like. You guys do go back to Seattle later on in the month. If it's not this month, I know there might be even a date in the beginning of September. So it couldn't have been too bad because you do end up back there again.
Which
so
we
that's good
probably went back too soon.
Arn, before we do move on, I don't think that I can possibly understate how physical and how demanding, intense, stressful this Great American Bash Tour was. Think about it. It's just not a loop for a local circuit. It's 45 days, coast to coast, town to town, match to match, stipulation to stipulation. You guys went out and delivered the matches to the fans, man. My hat is off to you, sir. Genuinely an amazing effort. After spending the last 3 weeks talking about this tour, can you summarize for us, for your audience, the thoughts, emotions, etc., of what that tour was like, that grinding tour throughout the summer in those war games?
Well, it was easier when you would stop and pinch yourself sometimes and go, last night was X number of dollars. The night before was X number of dollars. We've already heard the advance for the next 2 days, and business was very good, very solid. Everywhere wasn't a sellout, but we were running big buildings. We were running, arenas outside, outdoor arenas. We're running all kind of big venues. But the main thing is what people don't understand is, rest is key. When you fly all night, and make no mistake, don't make light of switching time zones. When you go from the East Coast to the West Coast and a day and a half later you're heading back 3/4 of the way across country and then maybe doubling back to the West Coast or something, what that does to your body is just unbelievable. Now, there's not a soul on that crew that we wouldn't have traded 1 day of that and all that hardship of no sleep and working your ass off and, hey, fighting the road warriors every night, it's no picnic. It's really not. And to go through that physical beating on your body and not getting enough quality food and not being able to eat when you need to eat and all those things is something that you sacrifice on a tour like that. I would say it's as hard a tour as there's ever been with any company in the business, and I would venture to say the guys that got through it and were still kicking ass when the bells rang. It was like we took a lot of pride. That crew of guys took a lot of pride in our product, and everybody showed it every day they were there.
And let's not mince words here. When you're talking about traveling across time zones, you know what you're losing. Time, but that is essentially you're losing sleep. That's the time that you could have had sleeping that is gone, essentially.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, if you go 3 time zones, it takes you a couple of days for your body to catch up. Now, if you double back and you go 3 time zones the other way in a couple of days, man, your body, by the time you get back to the East Coast, doesn't have a clue where you're at. It's really a frustrating thing because you're in this daze that you really can't put your finger on why you're in this daze, but it's just switching time zones.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.